राम हे राम हे राम हे राम। तू अंतर्यामी सबका स्वामी,
तू अंतर्यामी सबका स्वामी,
तू अंतर्यामी सबका स्वामी।
Good evening, friends, and warm welcome. Today's very interesting and wealthy Soulmarg event. Before we get started, and we have amongst us our speaker Sujith, Ravindran. We can give him a welcome with a round of claps. So I think few people are eating. So before we start, we also have somebody to put us in the spiritual mode through some music. Can I request Akshara? She was here a year back. She's a accomplished upcoming singer. She's come from US and she'll be doing one or two numbers for us, and then we'll get started with our talk for the evening.
Good evening. I'm honored to be here. Thank you so much to my uncle Kiran for having me here. I've actually just come here from Dallas about 2 days ago, and I'm looking forward to this event so much. A warm welcome to Mr. Sujith Ravindran. I'll get you started with one of my favorite songs. It's called Sapno Se Bhare Naina, and the meaning is beautiful and it touches my heart, and I know it's one of my uncle's favorite songs as well. So I hope you enjoy it. बगिया बगिया बालक भाग, तितली फिर भी हाथ ना लाग। इस पगले को कौन बताए, ढूंढ रहा है जो तू जग में, कोई जो पाए तो मन में ही पाए। सपनों से भरे नैना तो नींद है ना चैना, सपनों से भरे नैना तो नींद है ना चैना। ऐसी डगर कोई अगर जो अपना है, हर राह के वो अंत पे रास्ता ही पाए। धूप का रास्ता जो फहरे जलाए, मोड़ तो आए चाँव आए, राही जो चलता है चलता ही जाए। कोई नहीं है जो कहीं उसे समझाए। सपनों से भरे नैना तो नींद है ना चैना, सपनों से भरे नैना नींद है ना चैना। दूर से ही सागर जैसे हर कोई माने, पानी है वो या रेत है ये कौन जाने। जैसे कि दिन से रन अलग है, सुख है अलग और चैन अलग है, पर ये जो देखे वो नैन अलग है। चैन तो है अपना, सुख है पराए। बहे नैना भरे मोरे नैना, झरे मोरे नैना, मोहे नैना सुने ना ही कहना, बहे मोर नैना सपनों से भरे नैना तो नींद है ना चैना सपनों से भरे नैना तो नींद है ना चैना सपनों से भरे नैना 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 भरे मोरे नैना 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 रे नैना And then a little bit more fun. I'm a huge fan of Celine Dion, and this song, it's called That's the Way It Is, and it brings out such a peaceful, such a happy spirit in me, and I hope it brings that out in all of you as well. I can read your mind, and I know your story. I see what you're going through, yeah. It's an uphill climb, and I'm feeling sorry, but I know it will come to you, yeah. So don't surrender, 'cause you can win in this thing called love. When you want it the most, there's no easy way out. When you're ready to go and your heart's left in doubt, don't give up on your faith. Love comes to those who believe it, and that's the way it is. When you question me for a simple answer, I don't know what to say, no. But it's plain to see, if you stick together, you're gonna find a way, yeah. So don't surrender, 'cause you can win in this thing called love. When you want it the most, there's no easy way out. When you're ready to go and your heart's left in doubt, don't give up on your faith. Love comes to those who believe it, and that's the way it is. That's the way it is, and that's the way it is. Life is empty with no tomorrow. Loneliness starts to call. Baby, don't worry, forget your sorrow, 'cause love's gonna conquer it all. Oh, when you want it the most, there's no easy way out. When you're ready to go and your heart's left in doubt, don't give up
Akshara. It's fantastic, and I think that's the way it is. I think all of us are also eager to know the mystical laws of abundance. We have somebody who knows it works. And why does it work? Because the laws are, that's the way it is. And we have a lot of, I think, a few new friends here today at Solmarg, and I'll take quickly a minute to also share a little bit about the platform. Solmarg started about a year and a half ago, I think, roughly, by four of us friends who were meeting amongst ourselves and trying to share our spiritual learnings and experiences, and also meeting some of the masters and profound thinkers. And at some point of time felt that why don't we share this things with friends and families. And as my friend Bal very fondly puts it, it became friends of families and families of friends. So it became an extended family. We are glad to have all of you, and this platform is a non-commercial and a non-binding platform. So you join us to hear different masters from different schools of thought and philosophies. And the idea was that, there's something beautiful that we can take from everybody, every master, every philosophy, which we connect to and we can apply in our lives. So it's like collecting pearls from different oceans and making your own necklace. That was the thought behind Solmarg, and thank you all for being here. And since you've all registered, most of you, and who are not there also, I think we have the details now. We'll keep sharing with you about the events that happen. Generally, it's once in 2 months, sometimes even more frequently. So please do join us. It'll be a pleasure. And coming to Sujith, a year back, Prashant invited me to an event where we heard Sujith for a short while in the evening and felt that we wanted more of it. But he was busy for the evening, and he was leaving the next day back. He stays in Italy. So we had to make the best of the opportunity and catch him early morning at 6 o'clock from the place where he was staying, and spend time with him till the time we saw him off to the airport. It's like, sometimes when you watch a very good movie or you go to a beautiful place, you just feel, I wish I was watching this with my family, my friend, or my loved one. Same thing we felt when we spent time with Sujith, that I think we should share him with our loved ones, friends and family and associates. And we were planning and hoping that it will happen. The time had to come, and 2019 is starting off on a great note because he is here. But to tell you a little more about Sujith, let me invite the person who introduced me to Sujith, who spent a long walk with him. He's walking down with a baby. That is Sujith's daughter. Okay, over to Prashant to give a quick brief on Sujith, and then we will get into the talk.
Thank you, Kiran. It's wonderful to be back at Solmarg. It's one of the most favorite initiatives of mine. I love most of Kiran's initiatives, like his food, all the hospitality he does, his business workshops. And this one is obviously amazing because you get to hear so many nice speakers. He invites all kinds of people who are on a path of self-discovery, of spirituality. So whenever I meet a great teacher, I like to invite them here. Most of my teachers have been here. So it was but obvious that you would be here, Sujith, sooner or later. Sujith has been a teacher and a brother to me for about 3 years now. I've known him before on social media, but in terms of meeting him and spending time with him, me and Dianath here, we did Narmada Parikrama with him. So the Narmada Parikrama was a walk of 8 days that Sujith offers every year to a group of men, where we go and we are at the hospitality of people who will feed us. No phones. We walk about 250 kilometers doing rituals and practices that will bring us closer to our own truth and our own nature. And Sujith also has written a book on it. This is the work that he does for the masculine energy. So this is the book on masculinity that he has written. Also a book called the Shiva Code. Both were bestsellers. Just to give an idea of how many places he travels and what all he does, his son Adyan, who's sitting at the back, he has traveled the globe twice. So you can see the number of countries that he travels. And the little one, she's 2 months old, and already she's traveled enough. Okay, so that's the amount of work that he does. In Italy, he has been given the Ambassador of Peace award. His latest book, the new one that some of you have picked up, is what is being released today. And in my own book, the chapter on abundance is something that I've learned with him, because the first thing that intrigued me about this man was he does not believe too much in money, at least the way we look at currency and money. Okay, so I'm a businessman, I like to make a lot of money. I have a lot of businesses that are into creating wealth and all of that. And here was a very opposite perspective. You may wonder that he has never given a workshop that's money-based, except for organizational purposes. All his workshops are based on donation basis, which means like this, people come, they donate what they want to, like you may want to donate for the book or you may not donate. The choice is given to everybody. For most of his workshops, that's what he does. And it's very intriguing to me for a man who flies so many countries to be able to achieve that and do all of that on a donation basis. And I consider him in my personal life almost a sage. He has spent about 35 years of his life in various dharmic traditions. So for me, he's one of the people that you rarely meet who can really talk about abundance in the way that no one else has experienced it. Because we are used to seeing a lot of teachers and all who we consider very rich, right? We know a lot of rich teachers right now. There's a lot of rich teachers that are really famous today. To meet somebody who has a very different perspective on wealth, on what is abundance, is really enlightening. So when he talks to you, at the end of it, you will realize what is true wealth. And not just in the spiritual terms, but also in various other terms. So over to Sujith.
That you up. Before we jump in, shall we take a minute just to recenter, and then we'll jump in. So, if you have any electronic devices, anything that you would like to put on silence, this is a great moment. A comfortable position. Wherever you can be seated, if you want to place your feet on the ground, you may. If you'd like to take your phone and chuck it out, you may. Relax yourself. Let your body relax. And if you'd like, I'd like to invite you to close your eyes for 1 minute. And become aware of all the sounds, the little sounds and the loud sounds. Is noise. Your attention breathe in deeply and release. As you come back, begin. Thank you. Thanks for joining. And before I kick off, there are a couple of people I want to say thank you to. Kiran, Bala, Anand, Soulmark team. Now these kinds of encounters are just scratching the surface, just sprouting a seed. But sometimes that one thing that happens clicks, transforms. This is my little, actually in the midst of his 4th world tour, not 2nd. Yeah. So he's usually my opening act. This time we had Akshara. Thank you, Akshara. Opening act. I also want to thank Megha and Prashant for being generous hosts and best uncle and aunt of. They're fantastic uncles and aunts for my kids. This is occupational hazard. I also want to thank this gentleman. Dianath, raise your hand. If in India you want anything, something to get done, he is a person. Anything. You want to have a bottle of special pickle from Rajasthan, he is a person. You want to have a bunch of books printed on very, very short notice, he is a person. You want to have a poster printed the day before an event, he's a person. So thank you for making these books real. Lovely. Of course, thank you all. You had a long day's work before you joined me. So thank you for taking that initiative. You know, we spent about an hour together. Now, this can also be a 14-day event, but I'm sure that you're not going to stay with me for 14 days. Let's take an hour just to touch on the basics of the laws of abundance, of how the universe or God operates when it comes to abundance. And let's keep this interactive. So at any moment of time, there's something that's coming up for any of you that you want to, whether it's an observation, a personal experience, or a question, do not hesitate to interrupt. Deal? Good. At any moment, let's keep this interactive so that at the end of this evening, I'm also taking something home. Good? Lovely. Good. I was wondering where I should begin, because the last thing I want to do is to read through the book. You know, some of you already picked the book, so you're in a lays out the universal 7 laws which abundance. Now, when I was a kid, growing up in, already was very exposed to these laws. And you know, it is through storytelling that we learn the profound wisdoms of our civilizational tradition. So I grew up learning all of it at a very theoretical level. So before I jump further, let me ask you one little question. How many of you here learned that wealth, creating wealth, or accruing abundance is a function of hard work? How many? hard work, sweat, toil to become successful or wealthy? I see a number of you, you were very honest in showing your hand. Good, excellent. I must admit, I grew up a bit confused about this idea. I had my parents, both my parents, in all their best interest, used to tell me every day, what matters is performance. You want to be successful, you want to be wealthy, you need to work hard. The more you sweat, the more wealthy you shall become. The more toil and blood that happens, the more wealthy. Any of you recognize this? You never tell this to your kids, but maybe some of your parents told you this. Maybe you must have read this prescription on television, magazine. I had my parents, my teachers, some of my teachers tell me this. On the other hand, I'm just one of those extremely lucky persons who also grew up in a very profound spiritual tradition. And there, my teacher tell me, guru tell me, wealth or abundance is not a function of hard work. Can you 8-year-old, 7-year-old, 8-year-old boy, on the one hand, obviously trust your tell you. It's all about hard work, toil, blood. And then, on the other hand, telling me, it can be very confusing. So what did my guru tell me abundance was related to? He repeated that abundance or wealth was related not to your actions, but of being. So it's not dependent on what you do, but who you are or who you become as a human. Who am I or who can I become? I can spend the next 30 days. But the good news is we only have 5 minutes. Now, so to internalize this idea, for me, abundant wealth is a function of who I am as a human being versus what I do was a little distant as a child. And besides, it's not my guru pushing me to go to school and to university. It's my parents. And I consider my parents to be very generous parents from that time. The parents of my friends or classmates. My parents were liberal parents. They would repeat to me, Sujith, when you grow up, you can go ahead and become anybody you want, as long as it's a doctor or an engineer. My friends or my neighbors' parents even give that choice. You're becoming an engineer. You, doctor. Period. That's it. No discussion around the dining table. So my parents, like what? You go, you have a choice, doctor or an engineer. Not really interested either. I asked myself, which is the easiest route out? And I went on and became an engineer. But there's a very, very long time. But this duality, this conflict always remained. And I would have every day my father and my mother constantly check on me. How am I doing? Am I stretching myself? Am I doing more than my classmates, my peers? And they were absolutely that, because every parent wants your children, their children, want the children to become wealthy, successful, abundant, and with all good interest, the idea was you have to, and your peers, your classmates, become successful. And for a number of years of my life, I followed precisely that prescription. Through my engineering and their industrialist, it was just about, can I perform better than anybody else? And I was extremely good at that, though internally I was divided. Because every time my teacher, whatever it is, he was absolutely not interested how hard I was working. They were not interested what, as a management consultant, I'm spending like 105 hours, 120 hours a week working. They'd say, well done, son. Are you being a good human? What a waste of time. But constantly this reminder was, who am I being? And as I started to understand the essence of this question, the 7 laws started to become more and more evident to me. First intellectually, and then in my own life. How do I go on to become a better human being? And it was in the year 2000 that I hit a spiritual crisis. So here I am, a very successful corporate person, an industrialist. I push myself extremely hard because I prefer to believe my parents and their prescription. And I was in a place of apparent material success. But you can categorically say I was the most unhappiest man on the planet. Well, if not the most, absolutely, definitely in the top 3. I was totally not content, lost in a vacuum. And that was a time when I was just about to get married to somebody, and 9 weeks before the wedding, everything fell apart there too. Hitting that moment, I had to really revisit myself. Wait a minute. I look at people, all these successful industrialists, everybody also coming on stage and repeating hard work, sweat, blood, toil. And yet, if you can read aura, you look at all these people and you notice they are absolutely not content. They lack love, they lack good health, they lack happiness, they lack just about everything it is that we strive for actually in our life. Thus began a very important part of my own spiritual quest. This is the early 2000s. I plunged back into mysticism, into monasticism, and all this while the quest was, wait a minute, we are looking for abundance, we are looking for wealth, we are looking for success, but really, what is it? And I had to go back, and there are fantastic literature, wisdom sources out there in the civilizational wisdom of this land. I refer back to 2 very valuable pieces of wisdom. One is called the Arthashastra. Word browsing. If you Google, you will find, bridged versions worth reflecting. The second one is the Taittiriya Upanishad. Oh, that's my 2.5-week month daughter. Fortunately, she's taken care of by her uncle. So everything is okay, yeah. Taittiriya Upanishad. Another powerful source of understanding how the universe operates with abundance. So let me bounce this back. Thank you for allowing me to share a little bit of my own life journey, how that quest began to truly understand how abundance or works. Ask you a question. And this also briefly touching on the book. The question is, what is wealth? What is wealth? Anybody remember, there are no wrong answers in this room. Whatever you share is a perfect answer for you. So go ahead. Anything that comes up for any of you. Beautiful. Anything that makes you content. Love it. Great. At some primordial level, if you really ask yourself, why do you do the things you do? You can penetrate the different layers. You could say, I'm in the pursuit of wealth. Businessman. Say, I'm in the pursuit of youthfulness, beauty, good health, maybe love, family, fame, whatever it is. You penetrate different layers down to the most primordial. If you believe in a soul, so be it. If you don't believe in a soul, that's okay too. But at the most primordial level, all our worldly pursuits are we are driven by a little motivation to something. And contentment is a great word, but we can also make it more specific. So thank you. Indeed, wealth can be something that definitely brings contentment. At the end of this little part, you will be convinced. Anybody else, what is wealth for you? I love that one. Make a mental note of this one, because we'll cross-check freedom with the same definition of wealth in a minute. Cash in hand. Cash in hand. Beautiful. No, this is perfect. This is perfect. Remember, everyone has an individual truth. Cash in hand. We'll cross-check that in a minute. Good? Meeting all needs and having excess. I'm just repeating what you're sharing because everyone else can hear too. Because, I got the microphone. Good. Meeting all needs and having excess. Definitely come to that too. Able to do whatever you want whenever. Definitely a stage of self-realization, and that's a matter of choice. We'll come to. If I can, I should. If I can, I should. Wealth. If I can, I should. Wow. This is getting deeper and deeper here. Please.
You can have that something extra to help others.
You can have that something extra to help others. Jagat hitaya cha. One of the two important motives of living is Jagat hitaya cha.
Happiness of people around me.
Happiness of people. That also comes back to Jagat hitaya cha. Beautiful. Love it. You're thinking so deeply, so foundationally about wealth. Anything else? Spending without the feeling of lack. That, Shaina, is a state of inner abundance. Today, I should absolutely make it a point also to address the second law. Lovely. Peace of mind, peace, the important payoff. Good health, lovely. Wow, I've heard some very profound things. Any one or two last things? One or two last? Yes. Well, wow. You know, the word duty is a very sensitive word because it can be interpreted as an obligation. Oh, it's your duty to be polite with me because I am the so-called guru here. Duty. Obligation. Sorry?
Absence of stress.
Absence.
Stress.
Stress. Stress is a wonderful concept to explore. Shall we do that over the weekend? Because it'll definitely take a couple of days. Last one.
Love and compassion.
Love and compassion. You know what? Yeah. Wealth. Absolutely. You know, this is fascinating, everything that you share. Now, I want to quickly cross-check love and compassion that I heard. And this is all there in the book, by the way. You know, so there are a bunch of copies there. Help yourself to it. The sages have a very, very simple definition of wealth. Anything that you share, when you share, is inexhaustible, is wealth. So wealth is something that is inexhaustible when you share. The opposite of which is resource. Anything that you share and then you're left with nothing. You know, I have an iPhone. Can you pass me a bottle of water? Thank you. You know, I share with you my iPhone. I don't have an iPhone, but just imagine. You have an iPhone, after I share, I'm left with nothing. Clear resource. Now that you know this definition, let's do a little cross-check. I heard love is wealth. Now, if I share my love with you, am I bankrupt of love? I heard contentment was the first word. If I share my joy, am I going to be sad? Anything else that was shared here which is not a wealth? Something that to you and I'm left with nothing. Cash in hand. I heard that. Oh, you're paying attention. Good, lovely. That makes for great conversation. You know, however, I do know many people. That's one of the great gifts of traveling around, but also business leaders who kind of deal with a lot of money. Indian politicians definitely do deal with a lot of money. often not all over the table. I think I lost my voice here. I do know just a bottle of water. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Thanks. Yeah, it didn't explode. Good. Good. You know, where was I? Yeah. Cash in hand. Do you want water? Yeah, go.
About the leaders and all this.
You know, I do know many people in my life for whom, oh, thank you, for whom money is a wealth. They just put that money out there, give it to others, and they just continue to grow financially richer and richer. Great entrepreneurs are a good example. When they put money, they're not spending, they're investing. So the money thing is very subjective. I also know people in whose hands, thank you, in whose hands love, at least the idea of love, is not wealth. They seem like they are loving, yet you look at them and you notice how miserable they are. So wealth can be subjective. Yet, for the sake of this conversation, indeed, money in the hands of many, many people is not wealth. They have a lot of money. The moment they give the money, they have a lot less money. And the most important thing is they have money, but they are utterly miserable. Wealth is not like that. Wealth is inexhaustible, which is incidentally the 7th law. Those of you who have already stolen a copy of the book, the 7th law is the law of inexhaustibility. Our capacity, our vairagya, our capacity to distinguish between what is truly wealth and what is just a resource. Like it or not, in the hands of most people on the planet, both in the East and the West, money is just a resource. I can tell you, I look at myself, my own journey in the early 2000s, money was purely a resource. My relationship to money was so dysfunctional that I was burning myself down in the pursuit of it. And I had to have a renewed awakening to shift that relationship. That is the 7th law, that whatever when you share is inexhaustible is true wealth. The other things are just resource. Read all about that in chapter 7. But I wanted to give you a little understanding of wealth. And I will take a moment to pause, just so that I can hear something from you, whether you have a question, except what are the other 6 laws? If you have a question or you want to share a remark, go ahead, throw it. Don't make that question about, biomechanics or epigenetics. I can't answer your question. If it is about consciousness and how our worldly self and spiritual self operates, maybe I can help. Anything? Yes. Where is Mama? Good question. Mama is outside. Because Mama talked so many times that I don't think there's nothing new that's happened. Lovely. Great. Any observations, any questions? If the question going through your mind is, when are we finishing? We'll finish in 15 to 20 minutes. Yes.
I just wanted to share.
Yeah.
I am a techno. 5 years back, all of a sudden I gave up my business to my own employees
Uh-huh.
without, I don't take any money from the business here on the show, but I am living in abundance. I am doing most and I feel I am making more and more.
Wow. Wow. Let's give him a hand on that one. You know, talking of money as a wealth, I remember seeing a little picture somewhere on my travels that said that today on the planet we have enough wealth to fulfill everybody's need. But we don't have enough wealth to fulfill everybody's need. Which is entirely true. When you just look absolutely in terms of money, we have enough for every human being to live contentfully. Enough money to meet all the material needs of every single person on the planet. But the greatest issue, aham, the ego, the greatest issue is this inequity. It's pointless saying that, we have enough wealth on the planet when in the West at least more than 70% of the wealth is in the hands of 1%, 1/10 of 1%. The top 1% has 90% of the money. 90%. So, I want to acknowledge what you shared before I take a fall. Great job. You're a loud example who should be here and speaking about that example. Thank you for that. What's your good name? Sethuram. Thank you, sir. Lovely. Any other remarks, questions?
I get back to the part which you talked about the 90% wealth being with, say, the 10%.
1%.
And 1%. And inevitably we keep seeing the rich become richer and the poor become poorer. That's definitely a shift in the abundance, intensifying the kind of, the paucity and the excess. Whether it has to do with hard work, dint of labor or whatever, there definitely does seem to be the rich becoming the richer and the poor becoming the poorer.
Yeah.
In this whole cosmic scheme, how does that work out?
Wow, it's a great question. And your name is?
Anu Srinivasan Santhanam.
Anu.
Yeah.
Is it okay, Anu?
Perfect.
Good. Lovely. You know what? That's a great question. Probably it's a great question because I can answer it. If it is any consolation, categorically, 5 continents that I travel, the most number of people I meet who are happy, incidentally happens to be from the poorer lands, financially poorer lands. I come across more happy people, more content people, people who live in Ananda, more in the financially poorer lands than in the financially rich lands. So the more west, my goodness, yeah, I'm still alive. The more west and the more north I go, the more and more I'm daily faced with this vacuum of abundance. They have material needs, and I should not forget to share, at least this is an invitation to the ladies here, or even to the gentlemen who have ladies at home. This coming weekend, Camilla, my wife, hosting a 3-day retreat. Here in Hyderabad, before we leave, we are leaving on Monday. She's hosting a 3-day retreat for women on wholeness, on inner wholeness, which is a very profound measure, indicator of happiness or inner well-being or subsequent success for women. She's doing that. The reason why I brought that up is because there are people from the West flying in to join that practice. India's largest industry is the spiritual industry. For the United States, it's the military. Switzerland, thanks to some of our politicians, it's money. If you look in terms of the largest industry in India, it's spirituality. You have millions and millions of Westerners coming to India, a land which is relatively still poor. And especially if you take a train and leave a city 30 minutes over, you will notice you come to the most richest parts of the planet. Rich not in money, but in contentment, in terms of their own self-realization. So, our understanding of wealth, it needs to be revisited, because hundreds of thousands of Westerners that I meet, they would gladly trade everything they have. Most of what they have is money and time. They'll gladly trade all of that, have to experience the kind of grace that they experience in a place like India. Not again. Like India. So yes, on the one hand, that's one of the remarks I wanted to make, that there is so much misunderstanding in terms of what we actually pursue in life. And
a wholehearted life of contentment doesn't compensate for deprivation, which I think is something you
yeah, very much. And that's where, like the examples of Setu Ram, is starting to create a greater revolution. I'm not much into social activism, but as the years have gone by, I've noticed myself being pulled more and more into social activism, more as a spiritual guide to a few social movements. And some of these social movements are meant to address this inequity. Having said that, this is not to take credit out of financially rich people. You know, the alignment with the 7 laws, in the introduction chapter, I speak about this alignment. Great part of the last 15 years of my life has been trying to align with the 7 laws. Prashant earlier in the introduction spoke about me offering everything on a donation basis. There are 2 reasons why, bless you, there are 2 reasons why the sages offer everything, whatever they can offer, on a donation basis. One reason is the 3rd law in the book, which is the law of detachment. The law of detachment says that the more, knowing that the universe operates in giving and receiving in exchange, knowing that, the more you detach from the receiver, the more comes to you. So what comes to you is a function of your detachment from the reward. So imagine that you are a crorepati at heart, a billionaire at heart. Are you going to wake up any morning and think like, you know what, today I am going to do something for you, and I'm going to give something for you, because I think you will pay me 1,000 rupees and you will give me like 3,000. You know, I think I can earn 4,000 today. If you're a crorepati, a billionaire, are you going to think in terms of, you know, I can charge you 3,000 rupees? You're not going to think that way. That's all right. He's like a tennis ball. It just bounce back. You're not going to think in terms of what you can get out of that exchange. You're going to ask what is going to give you the greatest fulfillment, giving. So many rich people, one of the reasons why they get even more wealthy financially is because at some moments in their life they fall in alignment with the 7 laws. Can you read through that, all the 7 laws yourself? Like I said, the 3rd law is the law of detachment. We know that from many different scriptures of many different civilizations that, karmanye vadikaraste ma bhaleshu kadachana. This detachment from the reward. That's a very powerful practice. The idea of donation is driven by that law. But you know what? I know that I will have enough coming in. Like, those books are put there on a donation basis. Some of you will donate nothing. And some of you will maybe donate your car keys, your iPhone. Please unlock your iPhone if you're donating that. Some of you might give your home key. Please don't give your mortgage. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what the reward is. The second idea of donation is simply worldly, it's material. Accessibility. Some people can afford to pay 1,000, 10,000, a lakh. Some people cannot. And there's no discrimination between those who can and those who cannot. Pure, simple accessibility. Spiritual growth is considered one of the basic human rights among the Indian masters. I had the privilege many years ago to address one of the United Nations plenaries. And I spoke about the 31st law of basic human rights. The United Nations have charted 30 basic human rights that everybody deserves. I added one more, and that is the right to self-realization, the right to grow, to evolve, to become a better human being is a right. And if I say you come into this room, if you can afford to pay only 1,000 rupees, well, let's say 990, that is discrimination. So that's one of the reasons why, donation as a practice, which is a practice of the 3rd law, the law of detachment. Good. I had in mind to address something that Shaina shared earlier, relates to the 2nd law. Before we start that closing, again, a quick check-in. Anything that's coming up for you that you want to share, a question or an observation, or even a yawn. Yes, please.
How do we identify these happy poor, which you say are in abundance in India? Slight contradiction, probably, I felt what you said. One side, if it was so, then why do we need to have so many, why spirituality is the biggest business here? If people were really happy and this thing, we wouldn't be. Anyway, that apart. I run a business in which I need, let's say, a few hundred people, labor force, right? Do whatever I wish to. I can't keep them happy. It's not only the salaries, the work environment, anything you do, they're not happy. And it naturally affects the business when you want to give the best service to your customers, etc., etc. What is the way, according to you,
Wow.
to keep them happy or make them wealthier in those terms?
Wow. Wow. Your name is?
Pankaj.
Pankaj. Thank you for so openly sharing this challenge. You know, first thing, simple remark to your second question is happiness, pleasure is not happiness. Our soul has a constant yearning to come back to Satchit Ananda. Awareness, truth, bliss. That's a constant yearning. We are born as a newborn, as in bliss. And we have this constant yearning to return to that bliss. So everything you do, whether it's about having a relationship or having a job, Papa can open this, of course, because Papa is the only go, because we yearn for that experience. When we grow up, when our psyche, the ego grows, we constantly pursue that. But we pursue that in the wrong place. We pursue that in the worldly setting. Whether it is the fancy Innova or a great home on Jubilee Hills, or power, fame, prestige, security, belongingness, appreciation, all that pursuit at a very primordial level is driven by the soul's longing for ananda, for bliss. However, the way the ego hijacks it, that pursuit, is by confusing pleasure with happiness. The funny thing about pleasure is pleasure has an external locus. So I give you give me an ice cream. And I say, oh, I'm so happy. Or you invite me over for dinner. And I'm like, oh, I'm so happy. No, that's pleasure. Because it has got an external trigger. True happiness has no such external stimulus. It is just us being, our own state of being. The funny thing is, we grow up believing that if I'd have a lot of money, I'll be happy. Or if I have the best woman in my life, or a house on Jubilee Hills, or an Innova or a Mercedes, I'll be happy. These kind of inner references, expectations get built. And that conditioning makes us always unhappy. Extend 1 crore as salary, yet the nature of the ego is that ego, bless you, that ego will never be fulfilled. I can tell that story from my own life journey in the early 2000s. I thought becoming a CEO would make me happy. And you get there and you notice, no, because the ego's urge can never be fulfilled. It'll continue. You're feeding it, you become a CEO, and you're still spiritually bankrupt. I was lucky because I could put a stop at that moment. The good news, if you're feeling completely flattened and demotivated by what I'm sharing, the good news is we are now facing a great generation, both in the East and the West, who are completely readdressing this whole idea of life. The millennials, the people who've actually been born more and more towards the end of the last millennium, they have no interest. I think you are a millennial. Some of you, you look very young, so I should not point my hand. Those who are, say, 35 and less, they are not motivated to go to work because of self-preservation. This is a topic that I'm actually speaking on a TEDx in 2 months in India, a TED talk. The idea of self-preservation. I know for myself, when I got out of university, I wanted to go to work, where they would give me a firm, good paycheck, and I would have a permanent contract. That I cannot be fired, I can be the worst beast at work, but if you think about firing me, I'll go to the union. That kind of setting we were seeking, because that was the self-preservation need of the ego was driving us. But now, the younger generation of people are not interested in that. You can throw a paycheck at them, they'll come to you, they'll work for 1 week, maybe 1 month, and the next Monday, they don't show up. And you're kind of like stuck in your protocol. Oh, you have to give me 3 months notice. And you try to call them, try to reach them. Maybe at the end of the day, you will receive like a WhatsApp message. Oh, you know what? I actually started with another job. Forget your 3 months notice and all that old-fashioned protocols. They're not going to work anymore. What is going to work actually is redesigning those inner references for them. They're not interested, they're not motivated by self-preservation. They'll go and work in a Pizza Hut or Domino's Pizza if needed. They're interested in self-realization. So what motivates them to work is deeper meaning and higher purpose. If you can get those unhappy people to find that deeper meaning and higher purpose, bless you, in what they do, then the motive for money or job security, etc., will disappear. Because our need for self-realization supersedes the need for self-preservation. And I encounter exactly like you, I forgot your name? Pankaj, yes. I meet CEOs of extremely large corporations where I have daily conversations around precisely this. I'm fortunate to be connected to the policy makers in Telangana and AP around employability and skill development across the state. How I can support their noble mission. And repeatedly this conversation keeps coming back. Yes, of course you got to give them some skills, because if you don't have any skills, they'll not be able to fulfill their own worldly needs. But if you stop at skills, you're actually going to create a greater chaos in your society than if you do not give them the resources to self-realize. That means in the work, that work must be a means to grow, to fulfill their human potential, to get deeper meaning and higher purpose. That is where your first question comes in. The idea of spirituality. Of course, I was a little judgmental talking about spirituality as business. But if you look in terms of absolute turnover, it is the largest industry in India. I'm sure that many of you will agree, at least those of you who know how to count up to 10. There's something very profound about connecting with the self. And if we can achieve that, then suddenly the pursuit of pleasure gets replaced by the pursuit of happiness. And that really comes from our spiritual pursuit. Some people can pursue that in a mosque or a church or a temple or an ashram. Some people can achieve that just by closing their eyes and being with themselves. Whatever that mechanism is, once you connect with the payoff, the real ananda, then suddenly all the material pursuits become irrelevant. So the spiritual industry has got a great role to play. The reason why it attracts millions of Westerners every day every year to India. Why? Because they've actually splurged. They've fully dabbled in all the material pursuits. They've chased everything. And yet they experience this deep vacuum within. And that brings them, that pursuit brings them to India. And I would encourage anybody to actually search inwards. Yes. Oh, look at that. Self-reflection a little bit.
Actually, coming down to the grassroots level, coming back to reality. Let's say I have a driver, his job is just to deliver from point A to point B, 365 days a year. Now, what do I do to make him happy?
Allow him to leave in 18 months or 36 months. Give the space for him to grow. Ask him that question. Where do you see yourself in your life 7 years from now? Do you still see yourself moving the steering wheel?
I need him to be.
That is your ego. You know, I have a center where we have 135 very esteemed experts around consciousness development within organizations. Bless you. We support Fortune 500 business leaders, the largest organization to think about on the planet. We support them in their own evolution and eventual profitability. Oh, thank you. Within our ecosystem, one thing we see is, if in that role, thank you, 3 years from now, that we are doing something wrong. I want you to outgrow yourself. This year I'm launching another book on leadership. Because there is, great leaders are not those who create fantastic followers. Great leaders are those who create great leaders. I want to be replaced. I want to become obsolete. That's it. And organization, I want to become obsolete. Anybody who feels you can do a better job with this movement than I can, please take it over. If you believe your intention is 5 years from now you will be in that role experienced, you're wrong. In 18 months, if you can leave that role, that world, you've done well. You have to evolve. So there is this constant self-inquiry happening within every single individual. Who am I going to become new next? 2020 comes, I do not want to see myself in this role. And they come and ask, like, what, can I have some money to actually reskill myself in a different area? Or can I live in New Zealand, can I contribute in Mexico so that I can actually develop myself? Go for it. So if you just have a need for a driver, you shouldn't have a need for that specific person 10 years from now. That is us defeating that 31st basic human right, the right to self-realize. So anybody who comes and defends with me, like, what, I think I've earned the right to spend one more year in this job. I'm like, discussion closed. I'm going to spend my time with my son, not with you. We have to become agents of that constant evolution at the expense of losing people. In fact, every time we lose a person, we have a party to celebrate it. Great. You're great fans. You're our alumni. Wherever you are, go for it, man. We'll pray for you every day. Or lady, go for it. That is our way of constantly getting people to come in and come out. So this is just a little bit for a food for thought. I know that we've reached the end of the time. I'm also getting dinner here. Once again, before I forget, Akshara. Yes, please.
So I completely agree with what you said in regards of self-realization, and as a millennial, that's something I mirrored. I was like, wow, that's very relatable. I just graduated from college this past semester, and I did a BBA in finance and got an offer from McKinsey Consulting, and all these things handed, but somehow it always feels like it's not enough, and there's this search for something that gives me more meaning and something that's more less short-term, more of a long-term goal. But even when it comes to, I don't know how many millennials in the room I speak for, but I don't know how much of that is stems from an intrinsic thirst for something. I feel like a lot of it is still extrinsic, and there's still an attachment to the reward. So I don't know how to tie back that long-term search for meaning and self-realization, but still be intrinsically motivated.
Wow. We'll start wrapping up this. But again, Akshara, before I forget, if you're free this Friday, Saturday, Sunday, you absolutely should join Camilla for that 3-day retreat for women on finding wholeness. Because this kind of self-inquiry is exactly what is the meaning of my journey as a woman? How do I fully step into wholeness or self-realization? That whole retreat, the practice is all around that. So any of the ladies or ladies that you know who can spare the coming Friday, Saturday and Sunday, please urge them. Camilla also offers her work on a donation basis. So it's a powerful inner work. The men in this room, please don't show up there. Since you asked, Akshara, my invitation is, do not over-engineer this in your head. Is this motivation intrinsic, extrinsic, whatever it is? Just continue that journey. Whether you take this as good news or bad news, anyway, you're going to continue in a job ever for not more than 3 years. You're going to change career once every 7 years. Latest, if you're a lazy woman, you will change career once every 7 years. In my time, I was actually getting trained for my lifetime. So imagine, I did engineering, whatever it is, and later I got on my path of self-realization. Imagine the scandal it created at home. Wasted all that money. You wasted your whole life. Your reality is going to be that your constant is going to be this continuous reinvention. Be happy with it. Do not try to psychoanalyze yourself, which Americans are extremely good at. Don't try to psychoanalyze yourself. Is this motivation coming from inside? No. You know what? If this path is drawing you in that direction,
I think it's more about not psychoanalyzing, but about being disappointed and frustrated with not getting the short-term results that I want.
wow, or your parents want.
Or more of what I want, I think. But
Great. Our emotions, our feelings, our intuition are the guide to take us. A great example. There's also an acknowledgement for Kiran. We were on talking a few weeks ago, and Kiran was like, Sujith, coming to Hyderabad, you really need to come and join our community. Evening. And at the time I was bedridden. For the last 3 weeks I was bedridden with a viral infection. And that when it came, I was kind of like checking in with myself. How am I feeling? And there was a huge part of me feeling like, oh my God, I can't even stand up. Imagine being able to engage a crowd for 60 or 90 minutes. Unthinkable. But at the same time, I was extremely mindful. Am I on a path of least resistance? The path of least resistance. And the elegance with which Kiran and the team made all of this happen. For me, there was nothing. The books needed to be managed. Dianath came on my path, took care of it. The event, all of this, Kiran, the whole team made it all happen. I needed to get here and get back. There is Prashant and Megha. There was zero effort from my side. Exertion level 0. And that's one of the laws of the universe. That if there's a certain path meant for you, that path will open up with least resistance. It'll flow. It'll come to you rather than you having to go. So if you're feeling disappointment inside, that is something telling you that here there's either resistance or I'm asked to apply force to make things happen. Listen to that. The more you stay with that disappointment without psychoanalyzing yourself, the more it'll become clear, this relationship I don't want. Or this assignment I got, this isn't for me. And to the credit of millennials, the good thing is they're going to come and tell you on your face, this is not my thing. If they don't tell you, that is bad news. Because in a week or 2 weeks, they're not going to show up anymore. Thanks for raising that, Akshara. It's always a great invitation for each one of us to check in on what our internal guidance mechanism is every day telling us. And the law of least resistance is a relevant one, which is a little contradictory to some of the things that our parents told us. If you come across a wall, burst through crash through the wall. If I was somebody like Jack Welch, some of you might know, I might actually stand here and tell that. But I'm Sujith. No, if there's a wall in front of you, what will a river do? It'll just flow around it. It'll just change direction. That is the law of least resistance. If Hyderabad isn't working, move with me to Italy. Whatever door is opening up effortlessly. And before I close, I also want to let you know, at least there was one person who was asking me if I'll sign a copy. Yes. Since there are no digital copies here, super easy, I can sign a copy after this. Is there anything that I need to remember, Kiran, before we close for now? All right. So one thing I want to do while Kiran gets here is I want to thank you. I think we touched upon 2 or 3 laws briefly. The rest of the laws you can consume yourself from that book. I'll be around. Thank you. I'll be around to sign a copy if you want. What I want to say is thank you again. Like I earlier said, myself, I spend the whole day, this day, hanging out and being pampered with massages and this and that. And I get here to speak about the laws. Unlike me, most of you spend a whole day at work, laboring. And after that, you still had the energy to come this far. So that's beautiful. Want to thank you for that one. And again, if there are any ladies here who feel inspired to want to connect deeper into wholeness work, I'm sure that Camilla will be around to answer your question, or if you want to shake her hand, that's available. I wish you all having a great evening, and until the next time we meet. Thank you.
Friends, 2 things. First thing is, I think the subject is such that I think we can go on and on and on. But I think the small 1 hour talk was just the kind of appetizer that will get us interested in the main course. I am sure all of you would like to know more about the subject, and considering the lack of time with Sujith right now, so the best way to do it is go through the book. And as he said, I think one of the rare persons I have seen, known, who operates in a different law, which I think we are learning now. This is on a donation basis. So people who have picked up the books, they please could use the opportunity to donate what they feel appropriate in the box right in the corner, and also use the opportunity to take a signature of Sujith when he's here. And I always cherish keeping books of authors with their signature. And I think with his permission, I will say maybe a picture also with him along with the book. So that will be great. And before we proceed further, and I would request my partners in crime at Soulmark, Bala and Anand, to come and give a small memento of thanks on the behalf of all of us for being here and sharing his wisdom.
Wow.
Anand and Bala.
In the meantime, yeah, I love that idea. Down here, after the formalities are completed, all of us together just to take 1 or 2 photos. That would be a cherished gift that I'll take home. Yeah.
Yeah.
You sit there, so moving everybody.
Okay.
We'll take one pic with everybody.
Okay.
People who want to take it personally with you along with the book.
Okay. Whatever. You
I'd
know.
love for you to be there so that you can, they can hold up the book.
But
All right.
Cameraman this side.
I think the memento. Anand.
Ah, all right. Okay. Wow. Wow. Thank you. Ah. Wow. Anand, thank you. Bala, thanks so much. Oh. Yeah, it's amazing. You got my name also written there.
So that we can have a picture.
Yeah, if you have a copy, you know.
Over here, if you don't mind, all of you.
Oh, thank you. Please take a seat. Yeah. You think?
Can I request everybody to be seated for another minute, please? 1 minute. Yeah.
Can I have the cameraman this side?
Wow.
In your hand or collect from me just in case.
Wow. Oh, you know, if you can ask, raise the book. Will be
Raise the book up so that
for one shot where you can raise a book, that'll be a great gift. Thank you. Adia, smile. Click away. Yeah. Ah, thank you. Wow.
Since Sujith kept it so short and left us with us to keep resonating with what he had said, I'll keep the thank you note very short. I'll just have to say that thanks Sujith for redefining what is wealth to all of us here. That's the first point I think you made really hard, and for that I think we'll thank you for the rest of our life. We'll stop thinking money is not wealth, but there's something more, which you left us with. And then also thank you for pointing out where the true locus of either pleasure or happiness is. So thanks for realigning all of us, and definitely the law of abundance and the law of least resistance, and more laws for us to dig and then sow the seeds and bear the fruit. Thanks Sujith, it's great, and on behalf of the entire Soulmark and family and friends, it was great being here, though very short, but we got so much in this 1 hour that will, I think, till you come back from Italy, we'll have enough to keep thinking about. Thanks, Sujith.
The parenting life, okay, I've learned a lot of parenting from him. And the way he manages his children, and the way he gives them a free hand to be able to do what they want to do, while at the moment giving full attention to you. That's something that you can definitely learn from. So that was the additional part that was free.
Thank you. Are you celebrating? No.
sure you are a celebrity, at least at home. Thank you.
What's the price of the book? While Sujith will not want me to tell you, technically the book is priced at $3.99, but you are free to donate whatever you feel like, because all the good work that Sujith does is only based on donation. And there's a old blue color cloth at the corner, the counter. That's the place you can leave your donation for the book. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Money. Sridhar. In your name? How do I spell Satish? S-H-E-I-S-H. Thank you. This is MPS money. MPS money. Money is good?
Money is good.
MPS.
Yes. And this made it short, Subramanian.
Sarala.
Yes.
That's my mom's name.
And coincidentally, I'm Anand's mom.
Anil.
Anand.
Anand, mother.
Anand, we
Oh
just
no,
have
these are from the team.
from the team.
Really? Wow. Sarala. S-A-R-A. R-A-L. Like this. Okay, alright. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Lakshmi. L-A. What is the name? Koteshwar Rao. Thank you. Ramana. Ramana. Yes.
What is the limit of abundance?
Abundance is limitless and
What
grow.
is limitless? What is limitless? I am
Anything-
searching for limitless, but everything is having a limit. What
Anything,
is
anything that is in the manifested plane is actually multiple. So there's a beautiful saying. It's a from the first law. It's a beautiful. Name R-A-A